Welcome back to the most chaotic qualifying session in Gran Turismo that I've been ever part of. As I say that, we go through the Toyota and almost get completely annihilated by the Volkswagen. Let's just forget about that and make our way to start our proper lap. On the way, coming out of the dead chicane, we clip the apex and perform the greatest 360 spin to recovery ever. Safe to say this session is not going well. At this point, I've given up any hope of putting up a good lap time as we are coming into the end of the lap. With the fastest times around 1:34 and 1:33, we cross the finish line setting up a time of 1:32, and just like that we get P1. To be fair, I'm pretty sure no one was satisfied with the lap and we only had time to put in 2 laps at the most. So here we are at round 6 of the Manufacturer series at Dragon Trails Gardens, not Seaside, Gardens, let's make that very clear. It's going to be 20 laps around a track that I'm particularly not that fond of. Tire wear is at time 6, so that means it's going to play a huge role in the outcome of this race. Fuel is not high enough to warrant any attention to, so that's one variable we don't have to think about. The strategy we are going with is 2 stints with the soft tires, 1 stint with the mediums, and 1 with the hard tires. This race does mandate the use of all 3 compounds, otherwise you'll end up with a 1 hefty post-race penalty. Since we are starting on pole, the idea is to get away from the pack as soon as possible, so we are starting out with a set of softs. So since we are going to make a total of 3 pit stops, it's very important to be aware of the time lost coming into the pits, which is around 8 seconds. So now what we have to worry about, aside from the obvious, is to build up a gap of 8 seconds from P2. And as you can see, we already made quite the gains, with almost 1.5 seconds between us and P2. And if we can keep this pace consistent, by the time we have to make our first pit stop, we're going to be in and about the window of opportunity to keep our position. But obviously with tire degradation, there's always the possibility that we end up short of that window. So we're going to skip on ahead to the 6th lap where we are about 5 seconds ahead, so we weren't able to extend the gap as much as we would have liked. But let's not forget, nobody has come into the pits, so at this point, if I can get the undercut done by pitting early, we'll end up with a new set of softs, making it easier for us to play catch up with anybody who takes the lead by skipping out on pitting early. As we come into the pits to start our second stint on the softs, we can see that the Spaniard is now able to catch up to us. We're gonna let the Porsche pit crew do their magic, and just as we exit the pit lane, the Spaniard moves up to P1. So now the tables have turned and it is up to us to keep the pressure on and make sure that we don't make any stupid mistakes. But that won't be much of an issue since we are on the fresher tires and the Spaniard has yet to pit, so it's just a matter of time that we move up to P1 again. And at the back, P3 and P4 did pit, giving the French driver in P5 to move up the grid, but also that creates a big gap between us and them, so a lot of pressure is taken away from us in terms of being followed. So we are coming to the end of the 7th lap and we have caught up to the Spaniard, and at this point his tires have more or less just given up, so he knows that he can't defend his position, so he makes his way into the pits for a new set. So it seems that some people have opted to pit at the end of the 7th lap, which obviously is dependent on the car that they are driving. But what really surprised me was when the Spaniard and the French driver switched to the mediums, which tells me they are either on a 2-stop where in their last stint they will switch to hards, or they are on a 3-stop strategy like I am and will switch to the softs again at some point before switching to the hards. If that is the case, then it's a very odd strategy because as you can see on the map, everybody in the upper midfield has a lot of clean air, which gives them enough room to push as much as possible. So now we are coming to the end of the second stint on the softs. This time around we are well ahead of the overtaking window of 8 seconds, so that means even if the Spaniard skips on pit in this lap, he will not be able to do any overtakes on us. So now we are going to switch to the mediums, which we will be using for the remainder of this race until the last lap. Since, as I said at the start of this race, all 3 compounds are mandatory. And with the hard tires having the least amount of grip, it makes sense that we use them for as fewer laps as possible. And the Spaniard does in fact pit at the same time as us, so we were right in thinking that maybe he will switch to the softs again at some point. So he's definitely thinking his best option is to catch up to us on a set of tires that have better grip. But the advantage that we have is that we can go longer on the mediums, and he just wasted his set of mediums which could have lasted him longer than 5 laps. We're gonna skip quite a few ways ahead to the start of the 17th lap now, and something very peculiar happens. Keep an eye on the arrow of the Spaniard coming out of the last turn, as just as he starts making the turn, goes off onto the grass and comes to a complete halt as he hits the barrier. Unfortunately, I think he got disconnected from the lobby. Which sucks for him really, because had he finished the race, at least it would have gotten him a podium. With the Spaniard out of the picture, it really is smooth sailing for me. As much as I'm excited to get another win in the Manufacturer series, it really is disappointing to get another win without much competition. And that is the reason why this video is relatively short, despite the full race being half an hour long. And if you have stuck around this long in the video, I would really appreciate it if you drop a like and comment below if you took part in this race, or if you play Gran Turismo or any other sim racing games. I really like this race for how much strategy came into play, despite the lack of close racing as I said before. And getting a win on my first video of 2021 is one hell of a way to start the year. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all again with another race.